Yeah, just trying to make some videos these days. That's all, I'm training and not. I didn't feel like I trained as much as I should have last week because I didn't, but I did a lot of extracurricular activities, so I didn't fall behind. I just been working a lot and you know recovering from injuries. I had freaking a little bit of ringworm, but to be despite all of that, I feel in the best shape of my life. I feel the most capable. So yeah, went to Muay Thai today. I already talked about this, but one thing I wanted to bring up was, I go with my coach and training partner AJ, and it's like the best way I can explain it when somebody is at a higher level, right? Is you're swimming against the current. That's the best way for me to put it. You're swimming and but you're swimming against the current. And like if that starts to freak you out, like, oh no, like I'm doing everything that I know how to do. I'm swimming how I know how, and this is as good as like I am, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere because you're going against the current, then that's where people start to panic and make even more mistakes, you know. And it's easier said than done to be comfortable in those situations. The only way to be comfortable in it is to be in it. Okay, the only way to be in it is to be in class. Okay, and then you can't just be there. Just showing up isn't enough. You got to give it everything you have. And then that's not enough. You got to take care of your mind, body, and soul all the time, right? Like I don't drink, uh, I don't smoke blunts anymore because they're too harsh, and I don't, no tobacco at all. That's not gonna help my cardio, I make sure I get all my sleep, I get all my vitamins, and you know, I take my shots of turmeric and cayenne, and I drink hella coconut water and Pedialyte, and like I went to hot yoga, and you know, hot yoga was good. The reason why I'm making these, I'm about to start doing a podcast, and me and Benny already have Life is Great, and we're like at our on our 20th episode. But I'm gonna do one for myself too, just because I just rant and talk, and um, you know I had some ideas about it. It could be called The Example, right? And what I want to do is just take everybody, completely different fields, completely different backgrounds, ways of life, however they are, if they're setting the example, um, and have them on and talk about that, and then talk about whatever else, you know. But so much media is put on what is going wrong in divides and walls and politics and just garbage, pure garbage. That's why podcasts are better these days. And I don't like putting myself out there. Like I do have quite a bit of videos, but like especially like the more that I get into martial arts and stuff like that, like I really don't like talking about it. It's almost like talking about things, trying to describe things takes the air out of them, you know? And people, they would disagree with that and be like, "Well, no, you're like affirming, you do want to be self-affirming, but a lot of that's here, okay, in here." The conversation that you have with yourself. I'm doing hot yoga. It's a 75-minute class. You know, excruciating. 100%, 100 degrees, and it was 40% humidity, and we're going through it. And we're going through it, and it's like it's just you and you. That's it. And like you set your intention in the beginning of class. Mine was to, stay mentally strong, stay mentally solid through the whole class. And I felt like I did a pretty good job. But there's a part of me that is like the master, and that part of me knows that I am far from reaching perfection or real mastery, and it's almost like the like Saturn type energy, the taskmaster. This is my mind. This is how my mind works. Keep your hands up. Move. You know, if your technique starts to suffer, you start to take punishment. If you start to take punishment, that's a problem. Okay? So I've tried my best to come up with all the solutions on how not to take punishment. And, you have to be as good or better, or you have to be able to, you have to use strategy. You have to use strategy. And this is mixed martial arts. There's many different arts. People are doing karate, boxing. They come from all different types of backgrounds, And, I want to be a complete mixed martial artist. I'm getting there. But it's never quite good enough. But it is satisfying to win. It is satisfying. It is like quenching the deepest thirst that I've ever had when I win these competitions, because I'm using everything that I have. I'm using everything that I have, and there's no excuse. There's no excuse. People were like, "Damn, that's a lot of pressure." Yeah, well, I you know I embrace it. I embrace it because that is the only way that I have discovered to be a winner and to overcome. To overcome, you have a problem. Okay? We can't harp on the problem for too long. We need to identify the problem. Then we need to identify the solutions. Booty.
What the fuck?
Girl just walked in. I'm just doing a video.
You're doing a video?
But, yeah. And it's good to have a good support system like my girl, Jody, who just takes care of me nonstop. Because sometimes I'm just weathered, dude. I'm like, this is what I'm saying. We're in a sport, right? This is fighting, right? This is what I'm talking about. We're in a sport, which is multiple sports, and all of those are aimed to break someone down. So enough of that, too much of that, and you're gonna be broken. You're gonna be broken, and there's no way to avoid it. You can't swim and not get wet. You're gonna get hit. Okay, you can't fight and not take punishment. That doesn't mean that it's all right to take punishment. Here's what I this is gonna be just me just ranting. That's what this is gonna be. But the podcast is coming soon. Moving into the new spot. I got a study room, and that's where I'm gonna put the podcast together. We'll be getting Life is Great in there, and something I'm gonna name my podcast something like The Example. You could be a nurse practitioner and do a really good job, and nobody knows it except for you and the person who you're dealing with. But I'm gonna find these people and I'm gonna bring them in, and from when they set the example, so I'm gonna use people to find other people who set the example for one thing. I'm gonna bring them in and talk to them about how they set the example. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be, fucking, world changing. Everybody wants to change the world. I heard this something the other day. They want to change the world by changing the rules. You know what I mean? By being like, well, we need to elect this person and get rid of this person. We need to change this legislation, and we need to, change these gun laws and things like that. Not that legislation and all these things don't work, right? But as far as I can tell, it's the same game that's always been being played, right? And that is an internal one. That's just between me and me. That's it, until I have some self-knowing and self-love, I'm not really effective. I'm not really effective. You know, how can you have a plan if you don't even know who you are? You know what I'm saying? How can you figure out who you are? How can you figure out who you are? You know, when my light bulb goes off, right? Which was another thing too, right? This whole enlightenment deal, that comes and goes. Okay, I will say this: if you're taking synthetic drugs, pharmaceuticals, that enlightenment isn't going to come. You might get a rush of dopamine. You might get a rush of like some type of uh, reaction, like chemical reaction, but it's not going to be the real light bulb going off. And you know, it's talking about the energy spiraling up the spinal cord, the kundalini, in a spiraling fashion, going all the way up the spine, all the way to the pineal gland, and this is giving you major chemical benefit, like anti aging, anti-inflammatory, anti this, and this is, and I'm literally taking this portion from the Becoming Supernatural guy, who I read his book Becoming Supernatural. I forget his name, but I did read his book, and he's been doing a lot of like podcasts and stuff like that. I mean, I really should know his name. I did read his book, and it was a great book, but basically getting control of your mind to the point where you can experience more bliss, less stress, less anxiety, and and so on and so on and so on. You know what I mean? It's like levels, okay? Like hate, jealousy, envy, um, you know, like the lower, like control, pride. Like pride is like somewhere in between like the negative and the top of the top and the low of the low, but it's not all the way on the top. And I'm using this from like levels of consciousness in the book I read, Power versus Force. So you want to go up, and you want to experience less stress and less anxiety. You want to feel lighter and more free. You want to create a relationship with spirit, right? Because spirit is like it's like this little essence that you can't see, and it's basically like it is the undercurrent of all life. Everything that is alive is alive, is living. It's always forever changing, forever growing and dying, never stopping, ever. And we're a part of that. So we shouldn't cut ourselves off from that. But we do by putting our attention over here and over there, and by smoking cigarettes, and just having pointless conversation just to have conversation, and drinking alcohol. Like, we do everything to just get away from ourselves. And I need myself. I'm the only one I can count on, especially when they lock the door and I'm inside the cage. So that relationship and that strength, that sense of self that I've built, like yo, I no matter what, I am going to weather the storm, no matter what. Like, even if I'm knocked down and beat, and they think I lost, I will never ever stop. I will never ever give up. And that's me. That's me. That's me. So I love you. I love you guys. I don't want to get too caught up. This is about 15 minutes. Maybe the podcast, we're going to see how long they go, but this is just going to be like the introduction to the example. You know, you know, you know how you be the example. You stay on the same playing field as everybody else. I'm not any better than anyone else, and nobody else is better than me. We are all the same. And the only thing that separates us is our intention and our level of effort, okay, that we put out. That's it. How bad we really want it. If people really want it, doesn't matter who believes, doesn't matter who's watching, doesn't matter how much time, doesn't matter how many wins or losses, doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? This is the life. You get what I'm saying? To go in and learn something new, like a long guard, it's just insane, bro. It's just insane. But love you guys.